How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 5 of What If Deku Had Bond's Powers. And now, before we begin, I would just like to ask you all to please put your what if suggestions down in the comment section below. And now, let's begin. Okay, that's quite the strange entrance, Izuku would say, kind of confused at the small, short, yellow-haired figure just set in front of him. However, the match would then begin without any problems, as Izuku would jump back, waiting for the person now known as Meliodas to begin with their first strike. As this would be happening, Meliodas would rush towards Izuku before punching him right across the face and punching him right in the gut, as would then collapse down to his knees in pain. He had never felt such strong blows before in his life. They were leaps and bounds ahead of anything his classmates or Kirishima had ever been able to do to him before. Izuku would then get up smiling as blood would start flowing out of his mouth. Izuku would then spit it to the side, laughing. This was going to be one of his best fights he's ever had, he would think to himself, as he would rush towards Meliodas, going to punch him, winding back his fist and closing his fingers within it, punching Meliodas right across the face. However, it seemed to do little to nothing to the short, yellow-haired boy standing in front of him. Meliodas would smile up to Izuku, looking up at the huge figure standing in front of him that looked quite similar to Bond. The only difference was Izuku had green hair. As Meliodas would be staring up at him, with Izuku's fist still in his cheek, he would then grab Izuku's wrist, pulling it towards him. As Izuku would start to lose balance, he would flip over, kicking Meliodas right in the head. However, it did nothing, as Meliodas, seeing an open spot, would then kick Izuku as well, lifting up his foot, barely managing to reach Izuku, kicking him right in between the legs. As Izuku would fall down, as he would then jump back, just being like, you didn't have to do that, Meliodas, Izuku would say before rushing towards him. Now mad this time. Rushing towards him, he would then throw a punch right across Meliodas' face before punching him right across the gut. Right across the other side of his face as well, before uppercutting him, sending him flying into the air. Izuku would jump up, grabbing onto Meliodas' face, gripping it as tight as he possibly could, before jumping down, slamming his face right down into the ground, as Meliodas' teeth would right there. However, he would get up and they were fine, which kind of confused Izuku, but he just assumed Meliodas had some sort of healing property to him, just like he had. So Izuku would be staring at Meliodas right there. Meliodas would then rush towards Izuku, grabbing onto Izuku's neck, using his magic to slam Izuku down off of where he had stood, slamming him down into the ground as Izuku would then get up. Why don't we continue this just as a fist fight, huh? Maybe then I'll at least have some sort of a chance against you. Izuku would glaring towards Meliodas, who would then agree. As Izuku would rush towards him once again, punching him continually. Each punch was harder and faster than the other, with Izuku getting better and better as time went on. As this would keep continuing, more and more air pressure would be sent flying backwards as each punch was landed or blocked. As this would be happening, the inner walls around the Colosseum would start to deteriorate from all the wind blowing and brushing up against them. As this would be happening, Izuku would then be sent flying, slammed down into the ground, as the concrete would flying up, shattering, as Izuku would jump up, jumping from each shattered piece of concrete next, before going right towards Meliodas, punching him across the face. All of the crowd was on the edge of their seats. This was just that amazing of a fight. They couldn't believe it. This fight was truly remarkable. They'd never seen something so crazy like this, not even from an All Might fight against a villain. As the fight would continue ongoing, Meliodas and Izuku would fall down to the ground, clenching their fist to their side, before both saying that they're going to end this once and for all. As they would both rush towards each other, winding their fist back, they would then slam their fist right into each other. As such amount of power was in this punch, would just have so much air be sent flowing backwards, and smoke would end up fuming up into the air. Not smoke, just debris and just dust cloud would form. However, when it dissipated, all that was left was Meliodas standing right in the middle of the shattered arena with his hand smoking, and Izuku embedded into the outer wall, somehow not having gone through it at all, as it was just 10 feet layered of concrete, thanks to Mentos, the hero there, having just made it thicker, having seen how powerful the fight was and seeing how it was deteriorating the wall mid-fight. So with that, Izuku, not being knocked out, would get out before laughing, stretching out his arm, just yelling towards Meliodas. That was quite the good fight I had against you. In fact, it was the best one I've had in years. You'll have to show me all your techniques later, Izuku would say, before Meliodas would only stare at him, saying that it was a secret. As we now jump forward to see Izuku standing on second place, Meliodas in first, and just the person in third. As Izuku just walking by, would end up seeing Kirishima walking down as well. As Izuku would pat his back, just assuring him that Mina was going to be okay. It wasn't going to be that bad of an injury, could it? We cut forward to see Nezu sitting in an office with Aizawa talking to him. So, with the victory of that Class 1C kid showing that amount of power, I don't understand why they didn't try out for the hero course. But who really cares anyway? I'm going to move down Mineta and bring up the Meliodas kid, if that's okay with you, Aizawa. Oh, yes, that should be perfectly fine. After his display of immense power, it's very clear that he really belongs in Class 1A. Yes, I agree with you, Nezu would say, agreeing with Aizawa's statement. As we now see Izuku walking into Class 1A after and the next day of the entire thing. As Izuku would be walking in, he would sit down before staring on at everything, before he would end up seeing Meliodas walk in and sit next to him. Yo, he would say towards Izuku. Ah, Meliodas, it appears you found a way to get into Class 1A. Yeah, it was some purple kid that had to be moved down. Oh, that's interesting. I think that kid's name was Mineta. He was quite the nuisance. Thank God he's gone, Izuku would say, as Meliodas, who was just a bit confused, wouldn't really mention it at all. So Aizawa would end up walking into the room after this, as he would be carrying a massive stack of papers, as he would then hand each stack of papers out to each person. This is gonna take too long. So, class, you have the entire day to decide where you want internship for. You can intern anywhere that has been written down on those papers, as those are the hero agencies that have wanted you to go to their internships. We talked about this a little bit before this, but it doesn't really matter. So, why don't now just begin looking through all of the lists and names, looking at anyone that you might want to pick out. That would be good. As this internship, you're gonna be just training with heroes, trying to get better. So, let's begin. You all have the rest of the day to do this, and if you're not done, you're not gonna be taking an internship at all, and rather be filling out one of those packets behind me. The class would lean over, looking to see what was behind Aizawa, which revealed another huge stack of papers. Many of them would instantly begin flipping through the pages as fast as they could, not wanting to have to do so much of that work. So, as all of this would be happening, we then end up seeing Izuku walk over towards Aizawa, submitting his papers along with Meliodas. Izuku wanting to get just placed so that he could train with Meliodas. Izuku had chosen All Might's agency, which had chosen him along with Meliodas, as it had always done to the first and second place winners of the first year sports festival. So with that, we see Izuku and them walking on the aisles of All Might's agency, where they would end up seeing All Might laughing down the corridor. It's nice to meet you both. So you two are now going to become my sidekicks for the next week or so. I've deemed you both worthy of these, All Might would say, handing both of them these hero agency or temporary hero licenses. Izuku would look on it before nodding his head, pocketing it, as Meliodas would then do the same. So, let's begin, he would say. So, I'm basically going to task you both with going out for the next 2.5 days and try to find and capture as many villains as possible. Then, well, that will actually be the last 2.5 days. The first 2.5 days will actually just be me and both of you going out and just learning the ropes of heroing. Alright? So, why don't we get started? I would say before rushing out the door, as Meliodas and Izuku would be close behind. Meliodas didn't really care much about this. He only really cared about tutoring Izuku. So he was planning on once Izuku and were somewhere private, Meliodas would reveal all of the secrets that were to this world, and would tell him that he needs to train Izuku. So with that, we just seeing him rushing around, fighting villains with All Might as those 2 days would end up expiring. So we now see Izuku and Meliodas just walking out All Might's agency after being told that they were now free to go and just run around the city looking for as many villains as they possibly could find to try to beat them and to see if they could possibly manage to beat All Might. So with Izuku's competitive side now activated, Izuku and Meliodas would split up, rushing around the city looking for as many villains as possible. As Izuku would end up finding tons of them all in one area, which it looked like it was some sort of villain warehouse. Izuku would easily swoop in, knocking all of them out within a flurry of punches, and then easily capturing them all with tons of hero tape, as he would end up calling the police before leaving his mark, saying that he was the hero. Just Bon, having taken the name Bon as it was the name of the person that gave Izuku his powers, and Izuku just wanted to show a little bit of respect and remembrance towards it. So with that, Meliodas would also capture tons of these villains while leaving them on a single strand of their life, not really going for the just knockout and capture route, but going towards almost killing them and capture them route. It's still effective, but you're almost killing a ton of people, and that's not really too good. However, on the final half day, Izuku would be rushing around, having had his counter having his and Meliodas' counter at around 999 villains, something that just seemed to be impossible. All Might was close behind at 900, and the hours were slowly ticking away. However, Izuku would end up strolling into an alleyway, looking around. However, as soon as he walked into the alleyway, all of the sun's dark presence would end up consuming over Izuku, towering over him. As he would end up looking around before he would end up seeing glowing red eyes staring at him from a distance. Izuku, kind of shocked, wondering what this person's quirk would be, he would take a step back before his foot would end up running into Tenya Ida, one of his classmates, who looked to be very injured, laying right next to him. Izuku, seeing this, his eyes would widen in shock. He would kneel down, looking on towards him. "Ida, are you okay?" Izuku would say in desperation. However, Ida didn't answer. As Izuku would end up standing up, his now eyes looking cold and ruthless, he would stare on this person standing in front of him, who would then step into the light, revealing themselves as a hero killer. However, right as they did that, all of the bloodlust had instantly just been gone, as Izuku would rush towards the hero killer, punching him right across the face. So the hero killer would be sent flying backwards, slamming into a dumpster behind, having his head slammed back. As the hero killer's head would start spinning from how hard he had to the dumpster behind him, he would end up hopping up, looking towards Izuku. However, Izuku was far too fast, rushing towards him, punching him right across the face. As the hero killer would then get out his sword, rushing towards Izuku, slashing on right towards him. However, Izuku had dodged this slash. As this would be happening, Stain would end up rushing towards Izuku once again, slashing at him even faster, as Stain's sword would then end up catching on to Izuku's neck, as Stain would put all of his force into slashing right through it. And that is where part 5 of What If Deku Had Bon's Powers comes to an end. I hope you all did enjoy it, and if you did, please consider subscribing, as it really does help this channel out, and you can even be notified when the other parts of the series do end up coming out. I'm sorry this video was a bit short. I promise you all that tomorrow's video is going to be 30 minutes long. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.